Hello, dear friends. It's important to let the world know that this Game of Thrones is over. Game over. Let's see if they get the message, because some don't want to give up power and play dumb, while others, more intelligent, have already resigned or have changed their jackets out of interest, not idealism. Opinion piece. Each to his own. Together but not mixed up. The end of the game is near. Everything is in standby mode. It costs a lot to fix the world. Evil has infiltrated to create depth. We are at the end of a sinister game. Game over means the game is finished. We have the power to manifest what we want. We are all geniuses in some different skill. There can be no democracy without freedom of expression. There can be no wisdom without freedom of thought. Must implode the bubble of everything but gold and silver. Let's start. The awakened community is far from being an homogeneous whole as if it were an army, and that diversity enriches us all. Each one has a different life mission and a different life project. Each one has a different origin and a different cosmic destiny. Each one has a different evolutionary level, and all this should never be a reason for confrontation, because we match in the fundamental thing, that is the end of the game or game over. Some seek prosperity and others seek enlightenment. Some seek comfort in what they have and others seek a better ascended world. Some seek a new age community and others seek the solitude of the mystic. Some seek health and others seek the regeneration of their genetic code. Some seek to live 200 years in the physical body, and others seek to live thousands of years in the body of light. Here, there is no one inferior or superior to anyone but living beings, more than people, whose soul orders them to follow a different path. Those who preach that we are all together and equal as a legion are wrong, for here there is no one equal to anyone, for each one is a unique singularity in the cosmos. Everyone must mind his own business without excluding solidarity. That is why it is important that everyone does a good deed, because the universe always gives you back what you give multiplied. Individual freedom. Here everyone to his own ball. It is said in Spain in a pejorative tone, as if everyone did not have the right to go to his own ball when he wants, as long as he looks after others and doesn't harm anyone. As we say in Spain, together but not mixed up, or everyone in his own house and God in everyone's house. We are all geniuses in some different skill, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that he is stupid and useless, said Einstein. I have a different view of a free and sovereign being. I like how he works. He doesn't stick his nose in other people's business. He just does his own thing. He just goes about his own business. I like the way he works. He doesn't stick his nose. It's a repetition. There can be no wisdom without freedom of thought, and there can be no democracy without freedom of speech. If you expose the greatest of your fears and manage not to let it control you, then you can say that you have achieved freedom. Manifestation. We have the power to manifest what we want. Remember, where the attention goes, the energy flows. Are you paying attention to all the things you don't want? Are you focused on all the lack and debt you have? Then you are attracting more than that to you. Instead, see a beautiful cup and drinking prosperity and abundance. Let that liquid fill you up inside. Release all that is not of abundance and prosperity. I have never publicly criticized another YouTuber because I respect everyone's style, idiosyncrasies and beliefs, and I think it's dirty and inelegant to mess with a fellow platformer. However, I get criticized constantly and I don't even listen to them, so I don't get bad blood, and so I don't give reality to negativity, because the negative is reinforced if we pay attention to it. I was not born to engage in cockfighting, but to concentrate all my time and energy on one thing: the awakening and enlightenment of myself and others. The basis of the American Constitution and that of many other countries is individual freedom, because all scientific and cultural advances have always been made in freedom, and because the basis of prosperity in any country is the individual initiative of the living being. That is why totalitarian political systems do not work, because they do not respect the freedom to create and prosper. They speak of the right of every living being to the pursuit of his happiness, but I would add the right to the pursuit of his enlightenment, of his spiritual self-realization for the benefit of all beings, because enlightenment is contagious, and when one being is enlightened, many others are enlightened as well. Equality. But there is also equality before the natural law. Equality is dignity and respect, equality in the courteous treatment of each other, equality in the right to prosper and flourish, but above all, equality before God. All living beings are brothers in a different process of spiritual evolution and with different life missions, so we must respect the process of each one and their free will. We are brothers because we were created by the same Father and Mother, but He made us different to enrich His universe. We are all one big cosmic family, whose coexistence is based on the autonomy and respect of each one. That is why, throughout history, all attempts to standardize humankind as if we were sardines in a can have failed. Each land, each culture, and each living being has its own idiosyncrasy, and that is precisely the great wealth of our planet. We are not equal and uniform clones, no matter how hard all empires have tried. There are still backward beings who believe that we should all think the same, or better yet, not to think but obey. There are still some who want to impose a single model for the whole world, instead of allowing each humankind and each community to freely design its own development model. They are very uncomfortable with freedom, because they have the soul of slaves and slave drivers. In the 70s, we were told that we young people wanted to fix the world, but that the world is not fixable because it has always been and will always be the same old crap. But I have never accepted this fatalistic pessimism. I only accept that the world is very difficult to fix because ignorance has infiltrated the living being to an incredible depth, and it costs a lot to unravel the tangled skein. Game over. The important thing now is that we are at the end of the very sinister game, and the bad losers are reluctant to lose their power of manipulation, despite the fact that we never tire of repeating game over to see if they will learn for once and for all. Sayonara means goodbye or farewell. In Japanese, it means goodbye forever. Game over is a message in video games that tells the player that the game and the attempt to play the level are over. It is usually received negatively in a situation where continued play is not allowed. However, it sometimes also appears after successful completion of a game, usually those designed for arcades. The phrase is occasionally used to indicate the end of an argument or process in real life. In January 2011, protesters and rioters in several North African and Middle Eastern countries used the slogan "Game Over" on placards to express their anti-government sentiments. Game over is also sometimes used as a phrase to acknowledge defeat, as for example in the movie Aliens, where one of the main characters, Private William Hudson or Bill Paxton, shouts "Game over, man, game over," after the ship destined to rescue him is destroyed. Paxton's use of the phrase was included in shorthand in the game adaptation of Alien 3, although Hudson's character didn't appear in the film. The Game Over quote is heard in its entirety after the final ball runs out in Zen Studios' virtual pinball adaptation of Aliens. The phrase is also used several times in the Saw film series due to the antagonist's penchant for referring to the traps he creates as games. In the movie Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the character Scott plays the tune Game Over for the classic video game Super Mario Bros. Some game books also use this phrase. Each book in the Nintendo Adventure book series has only one good ending, and all the bad ones say Game Over. Video games. During the golden age of arcade video games, players were usually given a finite number of attempts to progress through the game, the exhaustion of which usually resulted in the display of the Game Over message indicating Game Over. The phrase may also be followed by the message "Play again," and the message prompting the player to insert additional tokens to prevent the game from ending, and instead allow the player to continue their progress. The message could also be seen flashing in certain arcade games while in attract mode until a player inserts a credit. At this point, the message would change to the number of credits inserted and press one or two players to start, or some variation thereof. As these games transferred to home consoles, the Game Over and Continue message remained, but only required pressing a button to continue the game. Although the video game industry shifted from a focus on arcade machines to a focus on home games, the inclusion of such a screen was no longer as critical, as it offered no economic benefit. However, the concept of Game Over remained imbued in the medium thereafter as a way to add an element of risk. A player who fails to accomplish the game's objective will face such a screen and be forced to start from the beginning of the game or from a previous saved state. Reset news. First, the end of the game or game over is approaching. Second, the Fed raises interest rates to the highest in 20 years. Third, productivity falls to a 75-year low and labor costs soar, according to Gregory Mannarino. The blame game has begun. 4. The biggest global financial collapse in history is happening right now. 5. Forces located all over the world are waiting for the starting signal. 6. On Thursday, May 5, a loud and clear term came out. It meant go or green light. 7. In the quantum computer, every piece of information is protected and cannot be modified. 8. The QFS was designed to activate codes in all countries of the world. 9. The new QFS began to synchronize the currency of all banks and countries in the world to revalue to a system backed by gold and assets. 10. The Freedom Convoy trackers returned to Washington, D.C. Americas. Cloistered Carmelite nuns in Salta, Argentina, denounce an archbishop for gender violence. Second, Chile approves recognition of indigenous lands and resources in new constitution. Third, Chile announces its candidacy to the United Nations Human Rights Council. 4. Mexico and Guatemala agree on development plans to avoid migrant caravans. 5. An NGO reports 338 human rights violations in El Salvador under a regime of exception. 6. United Nations expresses concern about armed gangs in Haiti recruiting minors. 7. Brazil raises interest rates by 1 point to 12.75%. Economy. Stocks close a roller coaster week to the downside. Second, Wall Street plummets. The Dow Jones falls 3.12% and the Nasdaq loses almost 5%. Third, the Dow Jones plummets more than 1,000 points. Fourth, the IBEX 35 loses 8,500 points, weighted down by Wall Street. 5. It is natural to see ebbs and flows in the markets as we enter a new era of monetary policy. 6. Billionaire Paul Tudor Jones says you can't think of a worse environment for stocks and bonds. 7. Mortgage rates soared to highest level since 2009. 8. Elon Musk presents Twitter's hiring plans. 9. Amazon shares fall to 52 weeks lows, to new 52 weeks lows. 10. The Bank of England raises interest rates to 1%, the highest level in 13 years. 11. European stock markets rise sharply after the Fed's decision. 12. European stock markets are infected by the Black Thursday on Wall Street at the opening. Cryptocurrencies. First, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Doge advanced after Fed rate hike. Second, Binance gets the go-ahead in France, paving the way for Europe's push. Supply crisis. First, oil markets brace for more supply disruptions. Second, oil could remain above $100 for the rest of 2022. Third, Algeria will increase its oil production by 11,000 barrels per day. 4. Europe is buying natural gas at a higher price to fill its storage. 5. Finland is breaking oil ties with Russia. 6. Russian oil embargo, atomic bomb to Hungarian economy according to Orban. 7. European Union changes plan on Russian oil embargo to convince reluctant countries. 8. Fossil fuel companies like Shell and BP make massive profits. 9. Brussels has the Iberian plan to make electricity cheaper and is urgently evaluating it. 10. Greece will tax electricity profits and cap wholesale prices. 11. Brussels endorses social vouchers of €240 per year to contract internet. 12. Germany wants to attract chip manufacturers with €40 billion in aid. 13. US wants to stimulate oil production by topping up reserves. 14. European Union lawyer opens the door to compensation for illness linked to air pollution. Russia. First, the ruble weakens sharply from a more than 2-year high against the euro. Second, Russia faces foreign debt default within weeks. Third, Vladimir Putin apologizes for Lavrov's statement that, in quotes, Hitler had Jewish blood. Fourth, the war in Ukraine is fracturing the world economy, although the economy was already in crisis before the war. 5. The US accuses the Swiss banking system of facilitating the laundering of Russian assets. Asia. First, Southeast Asian stock markets close with losses, except for Manila. Second, Chinese tech giants quietly pull back from doing business with Russia. Third, European Union companies rethink their presence in China because of restrictions. 4. Heavy rains in China cause flooding and dam breaches, putting more pressure on the Three Gorges Dam, which was already overflowing. Rumors of war. First, the European Union will allocate €200 million for displaced Ukrainians. Second, Donors' Conference for Ukraine raises $6.5 billion. Third, French NATO soldiers conduct live ammunition exercises in Romania. 4. The US gave information to Ukraine to achieve the sinking of the Russian ship Moskva. 5. The US says it does not pass data on the location of Russian commanders to Ukraine. 6. European Union condemns attack on civilians in Israeli town of Eilat and calls for cessation of violence. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.